If you're a parent in Scottsdale, you already know that pressure is on when it comes to picking a kindergarten. It's a huge decision. So today, we're going to make that choice just a little bit easier by breaking down a guide that ranks the top options. Let's really unpack what it has to say. And I mean, for any family, this is just a massive step. We're not just talking about ABCs and 1, 2, 3s here. This is about setting the whole foundation for your child's education, their social skills, and hopefully their love for learning. And that pressure can feel even more intense in a place like Scottsdale, right? The city is well known for its excellent schools, which is great news, but it can also make the choice feel pretty overwhelming. When you have so many fantastic options, how do you possibly find the right one? Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to be taking a close look at a guide that ranks Scottsdale's top 10 kindergarten programs for 2025. Now, it's worth noting, this guide was published by Alpha School, and spoiler alert, they rank themselves #1. Our goal here is to use their analysis to really get a handle on the landscape and see what makes each option tick. But before we start throwing around school names and rankings, it's super important to understand the how. How did this guide actually judge these schools? Knowing the criteria they used is absolutely key to understanding the final list. So, according to the guide, every school was measured against these 5 big factors. It's a pretty well-rounded approach, looking at everything from the hard data, like academic foundations, to the vibe of the classroom and how innovative the curriculum is. Plus, they looked at the school's role in the larger community and, the practical stuff. What's it going to cost, and can your family actually get in? All right, now for the fun part. Let's get to the rankings and see how this all shakes out by comparing a few really different types of schools that made their top 10 list. And this table just lays it all out so clearly, doesn't it? This really highlights the core trade-offs that parents in Scottsdale are thinking about. You've got a high-end private option with a tiny student-teacher ratio on one end. Then, a tuition-free charter school with a very specific classical curriculum in the middle. And on the other end, a top-performing public school that's also free, but naturally comes with larger class sizes. So the guide really boils it down to this fundamental choice. On one side, you have the super personalized, innovative approach of a private school like Alpha. And on the other, you have the proven, accessible excellence of a public school like Desert Canyon, which is known for great test scores and a really strong community. So, with all these different models and philosophies on the table, what does this guide seem to value the most in a kindergarten program? Let's take a look at their #1 pick, Alpha School, and understand the reasoning they gave. Okay, a huge factor and one that gets a ton of attention in the guide is this number right here, an 8-to-1 student-teacher ratio. The source makes the case that this allows for just an incredible amount of one-on-one attention and personalized guidance for every single kindergartner. Here's another really unique thing the source points to, something they call the 2-hour learning model. The whole idea is that the core skills are taught in these short, super concentrated bursts. This method, they argue, is not only more effective, but it also frees up the rest of the day for more creative, hands-on stuff. And beyond those big headline features, the guide also points to these key things that make it different. First, it's a secular program. It also uses what's called a mastery-based approach, which means students move forward at their own pace. And finally, the guide really highlights a focus on practical, real-world skills and building a diverse community. Okay, so we've seen the rankings and the reasoning from this one guide, but at the end of the day, a top 10 list is just that. It's a tool. The most important thing is figuring out what truly matters to your family and, most importantly, to your child. So here's the bottom line. You've got to weigh these factors for yourself. What does your budget look like? Is a $40,000 tuition in the cards? Or are the amazing free public and charter options the right fit? And what about your kids' learning style? Would they do better in a really structured classical environment or a more flexible, self-paced one? And of course, what are your family's core values when it comes to education? So we've broken down the landscape of kindergarten choices in Scottsdale as laid out by this one particular guide. You've got everything from innovative private schools to rock-solid public options. The trade-offs are pretty clear. But remember, the best school isn't about a #1 ranking on a list. It's about the right fit. The real question isn't just what's the best school, but what's the best start for the person my child will become.